Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Open Line. This is our special segment we do the fourth Thursday called Ask a Lawyer. Our guest tonight is Kevin Kennedy, where you can call and ask questions, 737-PLUS, 737-7587. I believe we had a couple callers holding from the break. So see here on line 2, I believe we have Hiram. Are you with us, Hiram?
Yes, I am. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for calling.
Okay, I got a question for you regarding a restaurant. It's a famous restaurant, and the person that started the restaurant, he's deceased, and he falsified his age to get in the U.S. Army. Would military be eligible for either stocks in his company or maybe free meals? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay, Nick, do you think you understood the question on that?
Is he eligible for free meals or any sort of perks or bonuses as a result of being in the armed services? Is that?
I think that was what he was trying to say, and I'm not really aware of that situation. You know, restaurants are privately owned. If you do have a problem with the restaurants, we do have lots of times people go and talk to management and they give them some things to make up for some bad service or some bad food. And we do know that a lot of restaurants give discounts to military. And so what I would say to that is I try to find out what the policy of the store is. If they do, they're under an obligation to provide you a safe place. You expect to get the food that is good, merchantable, warranties, and if you found something, we all the time have people come probably once a month where they get food and something was in it, something was wrong, and they make claims. Those places have insurance policies, and we negotiate and get a little settlement.
I mean, one thing about the Clarksville lawyers that I've noticed is that because your proximity to Fort Campbell, you guys know a whole lot about dealing with military when it comes to divorces and all of those kinds of things. And if I ever get a case like that, a lot of times I just send it to the Clarksville lawyers because there are some subtle nuances in the law.
There's military law, and you know, there's so many things that can fall, whether it's civilian law or military law, and of course a skilled lawyer can throw those to his client's benefit.
Sure.
Because even the military lawyers, a lot of times you'll get some military lawyers, they're inexperienced, they just came straight out of the law school and they're not really sure themselves. So that's why it's important. Tell the facts, find out what you're confronted with, discuss it, flush out all options. Many options are on the table, and I always like to see people get a second opinion. That's why at my firm you've got lots of different lawyers, and I said, what do you think about this? Have you ever heard of that? We had someone that was really a wild case. A guy got one of these cigarettes, the vapors, and it exploded and broke 4 of his teeth out. That's what everybody said. Wow, and we saw the pictures. It's horrible. Well, he never dreamed that. He thought he was getting a vapor cigarette that he would enjoy. Well, that's a product's liability, and they're pursuing that.
All right, that's definitely an interesting case.
That is a wild one.
All right, on line 3, we got April. Are you with us, April?
Yes, I'm on here.
Okay, what's your question for Mr. Kennedy?
My question is, I'm in the process of going through a divorce. My husband and I are fighting over the home equity. I'm guessing it's probably about a little over 20,000 guessing here. We recently did have an appraisal done. My question is, he left the home about 9 years ago, and I just feel as if he shouldn't get half of that, and that's what we're fighting over. He wants half of it, and I do have an attorney, but I feel like he's being somewhat complacent about it all. Am I wrong in thinking that he shouldn't receive half of that when he walked out 9 years ago, and when he walked out I was responsible for the mortgage, utilities, and everything else that came along with the home?
Well, your question gets down to, is it a court of equity? Is this a question of equity? If I was representing you, absolutely, we would take that same posture. No, he walked away. We've spent all these years to protect his credit, protect this asset, and so we have an excellent argument to try to get that. On the other hand, if I were representing him, he said, hey, we should have settled this up 9 years ago. You've continued to allow this to go on. So you see, what would be fair? So the judge could hear that, and there's a lot of claims you could make, whether it's a division in property or it's an alimony claim. The judge could easily come back and say, okay, well, I'm going to divide this, but I'm going to award her some alimony in Toledo that even goes far beyond that equity that he's maintaining. He said, well, good gracious. And a great mediator would negotiate that and show him that. I like for people to entertain mediation. I like for you to entertain, because when rational, reasonable people all sit down, they say, guy, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're going to get hammered. You might win this battle, but Kevin Kennedy's going to kill you with alimony, in Salito, in Futuro, and probably a few more that we throw at him if he didn't get off of us.
Well, you know, and I'm a mediator, Rule 31 mediator,
Yep.
and I do some of those things. And that's what I tell people all the time is that, you know, you need to get make sure you have a good lawyer. And also, if you are able to resolve this case, it's going to be a whole lot better for you to be able to, know the outcome, as opposed to having some person who's a judge sitting up there and determining exactly, what they're going to do with your assets in a matter of about an hour, sometimes 20 minutes. So,
it's good. You know what? I was a champion public speaker as a kid. And then, I won 11 jury trials in a row. That was very impressive. But I still came back and said, Kevin, where was your greatest argument? Your greatest argument wasn't in front of the jury, but it was in front of the people, saying, lawyers, look, we need to settle this.
That's right.
This is what's going to happen. And I always try to argue from a position of authority. I point out our strengths. I point out your weaknesses. And if you're very persuasive and it sounds reasonable and logical, a smart man will say, we're done, we're going to settle, this is fair.
And a good domestic judge in any kind of a divorce action is going to let both parties leave the courtroom a little bit unhappy. It's rare to anyone to hit a huge home run.
Yes.
So
it's hard to win that's why those 11 jury trials was pretty good.
When folks, those that are watching, make sure, you're paying a lawyer, and when you might not agree with them, but you're paying them, and you need to take their advice.
Yes.
Let's see here on line 1, I believe we have David. David, are you with us?
Hi.
Are criminal court officers like the Metro Police bound when they're detaining someone, let's say for a matter of free speech that some might not like, are they bound to reveal the outcome of the FBI background check when they find out that an incomplete, incorrect criminal judgment resulted in 23 years of the FBI saying a crime was unresolved, when no employer will tell the victim? And the only way the victims find out the truth is to go buy a firearm and go through the denial process without being arrested. Are they bound to tell you the truth? In my case, the Metro Police on October 31st, 2001 put me on the Patriot list because J13437 was incomplete, incorrect.
Okay. Well, there is a theory in the law for people who are in law enforcement, FBI, people who maintain records. They cannot lie and deceive. Also, again, are they compelled to tell everything? You've got to look and see what the law is. If it actually gets into litigation in a state court where it's a criminal matter, lawyers like Nick and myself can file for exculpatory evidence. The district attorney has to tell us what would show that that is exculpatory, which means it would try to benefit the defendant. If later they had that information and withheld it, then that's an ethical violation, and also can rule in appeals, new trials, all kinds of issues. So we always go back to the basic premise, the theory in the law, and that is that everyone is supposed to tell the truth, and you don't fudge. When you get a subpoena and you've got these records, you better turn those records over. If we find that you were holding them back, then we're going to ask to have you sanctioned, and they have a lot of contempt of courts, big fines, can go to jail. It's serious business.
That's exactly right. All right, on line 2, we've got Rick. Are you with us, Rick?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right, what's your question for Kevin?
Well, my question is I'm a renter here in Maury County, and the owner of the house auctioned it off on the 15th of August. Is the new owner required to give me a notice of how long I've got to move, and is there a reasonable time limit?
Yes. In the state of Tennessee,
great question.
If the new man bought it, he has to give you 30 days written notice for you to vacate the premises. And so if I were in your situation, again, I'd like to hunt that guy down and say, hey, what's the deal? Have you closed? Are we going to make a deal and continue to rent here at this amount? Do you want to do a new lease? or do you want me to try to find other places to live? A good understanding keeps down a misunderstanding. So assume nothing. I love to say that to young lawyers. The lawyers come and say, well, Mr. Kennedy, I got this case, and I assume they're going to get the court reporter. I'm teaching them every day, assume nothing.
That's great. You know, it's one of the questions I get quite a bit, and is that someone has bought a home and they got something in foreclosure and they have a tenant in there, what their rights are. It's a phone call that we get quite a bit in the practice of law.
Yes.
But folks, we got to take a break. We'll be right back for our final segment of Ask a Lawyer with Kevin Kennedy. Stay tuned.